Our car tester Emmanuel Schäfer says he's in Spain, the home of Seat, where he'll explore how it followed other car makers to produce its very own family of SUVs, which includes the Tarraco, the Ateca, and the smallest, the Arona. Where did those names come from? He's on the road to find out. It helps to know that Spaniards are very proud of their homeland. Emmanuel says we're driving the Tarraco, Seat's largest SUV, in the place that gave the vehicle its name, the city of Tarragona. But Tarragona isn't the same as Tarraco, is it? He asks. Actually, it is. Over 2,000 years ago, when the Romans conquered the city, they called it Tarraco. Over the course of time, the Latin word Tarraco morphed into today's name, Tarragona. The Cirque Roma, a Roman track for racing horses and chariots, has remained from that era. It's become a popular tourist site.
We know where they started, in 73 AD, and as far as we know, the construction lasted around 20 years. Tarraco was a very large city because it was the capital city of the province. We know that there were 40,000 inhabitants. Out of them, 30,000 could sit in the circus.
This historic site is where Emmanuel is beginning his trip through the history of Seat's SUVs. The Spanish carmaker's first design came in the year 2000 with the Salsa.
There are some features from this car that we still have in the DNA from our brand. For example, the A-pillar connection in the bonnet.
The second attempt at the class was the Tribu, which appeared in 2007.
It has a very robust aspect, especially because of the wheel arches. This squarish wheel arches is something we have almost the same in the Seat Ateca right now.
And finally, the last in the group was the IBX in 2011.
We were already trying to find personality in in the eyes of our cars, and this is definitely right now in all our SUVs.
Emmanuel says it's interesting to trace how designs changed and developed over the years, and notes that the last one is quite close to what we see today in Seat's SUV series. We've also learned quite a bit about the history of Tarraco, or Tarragona, as it's called today, and the history of Seat SUVs. Now it's time to head to our next destination, he says, Ateca. The second brother in Seat's SUV family is named for a Spanish town too, like almost all the carmakers' models. That's not surprising since, as we've already mentioned, the Spaniards are quite patriotic. Emmanuel says it's around 330 kilometers from Tarragona to Ateca. That means that given Spanish speed limits, we're in for about a 3.5-hour drive. Meanwhile, we'll look back at our last Tarraco test drive. Although the Tarraco is the largest SUV in the Seat stable, it's also the youngest. On the market since 2018, the model shares a platform with the VW Tiguan Allspace and the Skoda Kodiaq. The Tarraco sells for just under 30,000 euros. But let's get back to the here and now. Emmanuel says we've reached Ateca, a picturesque small town of 2,000 souls that no one knew about until Seat named one of its SUVs after it. Now it's become relatively well known. We're going to have a look and move on from the Tarraco to the Ateca. Then we'll be off to our next destination. There they are, says Emmanuel, right in Ateca's central square. You can already see that it's relatively small, but tranquil and pretty. The narrow streets are inviting, but for a stroll rather than a drive, Nevertheless, residents are still proud of the fact that SEAT chose to name one of its cars after their town. Ateca Mayor Ramon Cristobal says you now see people taking pictures and rambling in the streets. He doesn't have precise numbers, but there's no doubt more people are now coming to get to know Ateca. Then it's time to get into the Ateca and head for the next stop on our tour. With Ateca behind us, Emmanuel says we're on the road to Madrid. Why Madrid? Because our next stop is Arona, and that's on the island of Tenerife. We need to take a boat or plane to get there, and the closest airport is in Madrid, about 220 kilometers away. That'll give us time to look back at the Ateca's development.
Das heißt, wir haben noch mal Zeit für einen kurzen Rückblick, diesmal nicht auf den Tarraco, sondern auf den Ateca.
The Ateca is the mid-sized version of the three models, and also the oldest. It's been around since 2016 and was such a huge success that SEAT had to put a hold on orders because it had pre-sold all the units that could be produced in a year. The Ateca sells for about 21,000 euros. Time to board the plane for our hop over to Tenerife. The next morning, we'll travel on to Arona in an Arona. The 100-kilometer route takes us up over the mountains, says Emmanuel, so we can see a bit of the island. That'll give us some time to look at the Arona. The little Arona's been on the market since 2017. Unlike the two other SEAT SUV models, it's also available with a natural gas-powered engine. The Arona shares a platform with the Skoda Kamiq and the VW T-Cross. The Arona starts selling at 16,000 euros. Emmanuel says that on the way, it's certainly a great idea to stop in the mountains, and if it's not too cloudy, to enjoy the view of the Teide mountain. Its peak is over 3,700 meters. It doesn't look like it from here because we're already at 2,000 meters. But let's get back in the car and head for Arona.
Steigen wir mal wieder ein und fahren weiter, denn schließlich wartet Arona auf uns.
With 80,000 residents, Arona is much larger than Ateca. It's a city whose wealth flows in from the tourist bastions Playa de las Americas and Los Cristianos. Emmanuel sums up the tour for us, saying he's been able to gather many impressions and learned a lot as well, and he's curious about SEAT's next SUV and what place it'll be named after.